Okay, I'm back. I apologize. I swear this place is like Grand Central Station this weekend. All right, continue on with our boot stitching. I feel like I could have taken another stitch or two up here around the top of the boot. But that is the beauty of this primitive whip stitch. You really can make it work, I guess, with less stitches. But on the negative side, it's hard to see your stitches, so you don't know if you're getting in enough or not. Don't you dare. There we go. Let me take a moment, untangle my threads. When I think back to how this project is ending, it's not ended yet, we still have to do our tree, but compared to how we began and what I was thinking I was doing and what I ended up doing, directions changed to be sure. Let me just neaten this stuff up a little. Pull myself back in the screen. I feel like I don't really have as much of a heel showing as I had hoped. I could have clipped that out a little, bit more. Put a little bit more of a notch in there. Right about here. Perhaps I'll take one black stitch and put it there. Give it the illusion of a break in the boot. I just poked myself in the chest with my needle and it stayed in my shirt when I pulled my hand away. Oh my word. All right, that's the last stitch there. They're somewhat bootish looking, I guess. They resemble boots in the loosest sense of the word. But when I get out my black to do the tree, I think I'll just... Actually, I think I have some right here. Let me put a knot back here and end this stitch. Now, I just realized as I was sitting here contemplating sewing this into a pillow, I think I'm just simply going to explain it to you because I just remembered that I am out of this background and I'm awaiting that shipment. So I don't want to use something else as the back of the pillow. So I'm not going to be able to, unless I do it when it arrives, and then I'll upload the video on YouTube at that point. But I don't want to hold off this video series to do that. So when we're done the tree, I'll simply just explain it to you. All right, let's see. I think I'll just, right about here is where the heel would be. And I'm simply just going to do just a couple of straight stitches, just to pull it in a bit. I should have used a little bit more thread, doubled up at least. I guess you'd call this the back stitch, or I don't even know. And close up, oh, close up, it doesn't really show all that much. But when you stand back and look at it, I think it's going to just give a little bit of an appearance of shadow there. There, it's there a little bit. I don't even know if you guys can see it, but it's just right here, just a little bit of darkness to create the look, somewhat of a look of a heel. Okay, he is, all his elements are stitched down. I like him. I love him, in fact. I think he looks very nice. Now we just are going to add in his tree. Gosh, I don't know, standing back and looking at the screen, I don't even know if you guys can see his feet at all. You see if I change the... They're there. Difficult to see, but they are there. Okay, let me get this. Oops. Let me get things situated. Thankfully, through the benefits of editing, I will probably be able to edit that out. Okay, let's get started on the tree. Now, as I mentioned to begin with, the tree is going to be, I'm going to zoom right in. The tree is going to be 6 strands of waxed floss, the Weeks Dye Works coal. I'm a little bit frightened to take these apart. There we go. Sometimes you just never know. And it's going to be the stem stitch. Now that I said 6 strands, beep. All right. Now it is time for our little feather tree. I say feather tree because somewhat looks like a feather tree. All right, we're going to be stitching the tree using 3 strands of Weeks Dye Works coal, or, you know, any floss that you choose to use, or thread that you could, there's many that you could use if you like. Just evening up my separate threads. I just really love this coal, so that's what I'm using. And I'm going to wax the threads. Just because with a step stitch, I tend to really just like my threads waxed. I think it looks nice. You know, not just for the benefit of having your threads stay together better. I just like how it looks. All right, so if you've never done a stem stitch before, oh, there's wax everywhere now. A stem stitch, you work left to right. And if you're left-handed, I'm going to guess it would be the opposite, but I don't know how that works. I don't know how that would work. Probably have to flip your piece, I would imagine. So I apologize if you're left-handed and I haven't been helpful to you, but all right, so I generally just stitch when I do the stem stitch. I don't usually make a line to follow because often it'll change as I'm going. This one's going to be somewhat straight And I'll end up here, which I probably should put a pin up here just to remind myself that I want to stop right around here with my top. I mean, you really don't have to. You could go higher, but I just feel like maybe that's what I want to do. And I'm going to do the trunk of the tree first and then the branches. Alrighty. Let me tuck this under here. And with the first stitch is different from the rest, but it's only the first stitch. So the first stitch, oh, it's pulling through tough because of the wax, but the first stitch, you'll come out from the back and then choose your stitch length. Now with the stem stitch, that's totally up to you. I generally keep them around 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch long for most things, but it really depends on how large or small the item, the distance you're going. If you're going a great distance, you can have your length a little bit more. If you're going a short distance, you would want to keep your stitches closer together, because if you don't, it won't look like a stem. But for this very first stitch, you're going to go the distance of, your stitch distance, your stitch length, I mean. I'm going to do about this, but you're going to go in and then come back out halfway between the two areas. This is the only time you'll do this, with this very first stitch. And when you're doing the stem stitch, you keep your length of thread below your stitches. Okay? I've got an awful long piece of thread here. That'll probably hassle me. All right, so now you've got that first stitch taken. Make sure your length is down below again. And go however far you're going to go. But this time, come back up right where you just came out. Don't come up inside the threads, but in that same area, same hole really. Just don't come up, don't grab a hold of the threads that are there already. And you pull again. This looks a little wonky at first when you get going, but as you go along, it's really going to look nice. And just be aware the whole time of the shape you're trying to create. You could go way over and make, any shape you want it. But I'm going to, because this tree is fairly straight, I'm going to stay in a fairly straight line to reach this point. And again, don't worry if your stitch lengths vary. That's perfectly okay with the stem stitch. If it starts to veer in one direction, just simply move over whichever direction you need to go. I don't know why that's pulling through so tough right there. I'm going to even out so you got that separation. If you don't keep an eye on that, you'll have a messy stem stitch. I think, let's see. I think I'm just going to have my line go right straight up here. And I'll finish right about here. See, I think they look nicer kept a short distance apart. Oh, gosh. That could have been a messy business right there. I try to just keep it down on the paper and do it. Can't really. Well, that's about the end, I would say. I think I'm going to go up a little bit higher just because I want my ends to start. So I'm going to go up a little bit further than it shows in the template, than it appears in the template. Ooh, okay. Last one. Yeah, that works. Now we'll just go back down in. To finish this up, you just simply go back down in. Make sure that this is over here. Down in the last stitch you went down into. And that finishes it up nicely. Okay? Now, you could start at the top, leave your, instead of knotting off, you could start your twos. I don't suggest that because you want to gauge your lengths going this way. At least I have to do it that way. So just make a nice little knot right here. I don't travel with this, well, I tend to not travel with this thickness because I just always worry that I'll come out the other side, but it's all good. Now, let's see, we're going to have here, 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 and short. Okay, so about here. Not that I couldn't remember that, but you know, safety first. I'm just putting a knot in my thread, albeit a very messy knot. Oh, goodness, that is, there we go. Okay. All right, now because we're working left to right, I'm just trying to figure out, let's take a look at this guy. He's got some pretty, he started quite far up. I don't know if I want, I feel like I would like it to start here over the top of this sleeve. Maybe that's too, then we'll go down, down. I feel like just 3 and maybe, this first one needs to be pretty long. So I'm thinking this first one needs to go here to here. And around to all right, so if this did this, and I'm going to be anal about this, yes I am, and then I have another one that's about this long. All right, that seems doable. Remember, we work left to right. So this first stitch will be right about here. I might not take this sharp of an angle, though I kind of like it. Okay, let's see what we can do. Remember, thread goes under. First stitch is a halfway point between the two. Is halfway between the 2 points, I guess I should say. Keep your eye on where you're going. Fingers are starting to have that not wanting to work feeling. I don't know why. It's not like I've been stitching excessively with all the interruptions I've had these last few days. they've had plenty of breaks. Excuse me. And as you can tell, I mean, I don't know if my stitches are even, but I feel like I'm not paying any attention whatsoever to their length. So they're probably all a different length. And that's okay. Well, guess it was time to take that pin out. All right, and then this last, or this stitch, I should say, will be here. And then with this stem stitch, you can simply go over well, you know, I'm not going to. Just because I don't want it to make an odd bump. So because we've basically stopped the stitch, we have to start it again. So you have to go at it as if you're just starting to begin with. Well, I don't, there we go, okay. Goodness. And then continue on. Look how bent my needle's becoming. This pin is this pin is a little bit in my way, so I'm just going to move it now. I'm going to check my distance here in just one more stitch. I think a little bit more. Let's see, that distance, yep. One or two more stitches. I'm going to use something else to gauge it because I can't, for some reason, turn my hand. All right, let's see. That length, that length. That's about right. Okay. And again, go right down in to that last stitch. If your fingers are working still, unlike mine. To me, this looks off. It's maybe one tiny half a speck off, but you know what? I can tell, and it bugs me, but I finished the stitch, so it's too late now. Now this length is going to be hard to work with. So I'm going to save this for my shorter area. Because if I try to start a stem stitch there, I'll be finishing it before I get started, and it'll be a pain right in the neck. So just waxing my thread. Be right with you. Wow, my fingers don't want to work. I don't know what the problem is. It's like they've lost the ability to work together. All right, so let's see. This next one will probably be, this will be easier because you'll just go up a little bit and then stop about 1/4 of an inch. So right about here. Halfway through. We're at the midway point, I should say. And this stitch is a little more fun when you're actually creating like floral stems. Because then you can add in some swirls and waves. And it makes it a little bit more decorative and pretty. I mean, not that this doesn't look nice, as I think it does, but that one's just a little bit more fun to stitch. That's looking good. Now this one I'm going over because it's really, could have gone over the other one. It's just fine. Now make this a short one because you don't, and don't angle it too much because you don't want a sharp turn. Let's see. Going to put a pin in just because I don't want to overshoot and not have this be shorter than it's supposed to be. Directly across to right about there. No, that's too. Let's see. Yeah. Sheesh, caught something. See, now this is what comes of going over the top, though. See how there's a nice sharp turning point here? Because I went over the top and my stitch wasn't directly down in the center, my turn area is a little bit wonky. Primitive. I'm really trying my best to stop being such a perfectionist, but those little things really bug me. Primitive doesn't mean just messy. So I can't keep telling myself that all lends itself to being primitive, because sometimes it's just a sloppy way of doing things. It's time to take that out, or at least for a moment anyways. I think one more. Short. Oh. Was that the universe's way of saying no, not one more? Let me see. If I finish that right there, all right, okay. There we go. That works. I like it. I actually think the way this turns is fine. I think it's because of it meeting right there that it's looking a little bit weird to me. All right, so I almost jumped right in and forgot to find my start and stop points. All right, so this one is going to be the same distance up, but I want it to all right, let me see. So here, it's got short fast. Wonder if I could, let me see. Yep, here. There. There. And that'll leave me enough for a short one up ahead. Yep, okay. I hope I've been staying in view of the camera this whole time, concentrating on my stitches and forget what I'm doing. This tree would look cute with some little white French knots on it, wouldn't it? I may have to do that. Or a rusty bell at the top would be very nice. That'd be a bit more primitive than the white French knots, but oops, hold on. Goodness, what's happening here? There we go. Sounds like it's getting quite windy outside. The house is creaking.
somehow I've got a little bit of a knot or something right there in that end. So I got to cut that away because I could feel it pulling when I was pulling my thread through. I probably did these angles a little bit more, well, angular than I need to. Oh, goodness. Hold up. Sometimes I'm able to just pull these apart, but it doesn't feel like I'm going to be able to do that this time. Oh, I did. Thank goodness. That wouldn't have been fun having to start that all over again. Now I'm going right down the center of this time. Let's see if that makes a difference with where how it lands and the shape takes form. And this is just me being lazy because I could just finish the stitch and start over. Which is what I'm going to do because I don't want to ruin this. So let me simply go down through that last stitch. I don't want to press my luck. I just pressed it with that knot. All right. I can't believe the paint all over the cuffs of this sweatshirt. And more than likely, it's probably bread dough. Hardened on over time. Sourdough starter, and the dough from the bread is like glue. I took that pin out and I didn't really mean to. It's like glue when it hardens if you don't wash it right away. And then it's there to stay. All right, give me just a minute. My pin came out. Now things are getting all wonky. Right about there, I think. Nope, because that is going to be too long. How about there? They still seem like they're pretty even, where it's not necessarily how I wanted it, but I was hoping to gradually make them smaller as I went. Oops, I'm gonna have to edit that out. Sorry.